Hey everyone, this is game 3 of the filthy opening series, the Wing Gambit against the French. And the game I'm going to show you is played between two very strong players, Daniel Rodriguez, rated 2530, against Mario Alberto Frank, rated 2350. So these are very two strong players. And you'll see how white dismantles black's position. And if a player can do this to a 230-50, you can certainly do it against your opponents. So again, we get into the wing gambit. So e4, e6, knight f3, d5, and e5, c5, and b4 into the French wing gambit. And in this game, black takes on b4. And again, I do recommend that you play the move d4 here straight away. In the game though, Rodriguez played a3, and after b takes a3, now plays d4. So let's just go back. After takes, I do recommend you play d4 here first, because after a3, black can play d4. And this is just a very annoying move for white to deal with. But back to the game. So d4 was played and knight c6 by black. And white plays c3 to support the centre. And actually black plays the most testing move that frustrates me actually. f6, hitting the centre. This is quite a hard move to deal with because it undermines the c5 pawn. But white deals with it very well. The move I recommend is what white played. They played the move bishop to d3. And in this position, black's played a few things. f5 is certainly one of them, but I think this is fine for white now because we can just castle, and after say bishop d7, just calmly take this pawn on a3. Again, black is a pawn up, but white's got a very nice structure here, and certainly white could play a timely g4 to undermine this f5 pawn at a later date. In the game, after bishop d3, black did the other option. He took on e5, f takes e5. And again, I think white played the correct move. I think it's correct to take with the d pawn in this position. Even though it sort of splits these two pawns in the centre, I think you better take him with the pawn because you don't want to swap knights off. And I think actually black's best move now is to just simply play bishop c5 and just develop normally. Play could continue bishop takes a3, and after takes and queen e7, queen c2, knight h6 and castles, knight to f5. This is quite actually a balanced position. Again, black is a pawn up, but white now has some advantages due to this open a file. And just an example move, white could take this knight on a5, and after takes, just solidify with rook to e1, and white's got a fine position. White could probably continue knight d4 and f4, and start maybe harassing these two pawns on this king side. But in the game, after d takes e5, black played queen to c7, so ganging up on this e5 pawn. But now actually running this in an engine, it actually gives the advantage to white by +1 here. So even though white is technically a pawn down, the computers think white is a +1 in this position. In the game, queen e2 was played, which is a fair move, defending this e5 pawn. The move that the engine prefers though is just castling. And I believe this is because if knight captures here, we can take on e5, let's say queen takes e5, and just play rook to e1, and hit this really weak e6 pawn. For instance, queen f6, knight takes a3, and if you just look at this position, white's castled, developed the bishop and knight, got an open a file, and all black's done is develop the queen to f6, and that actually gets in the way of the knight, so white has a superior position. But Rodriguez just played queen c2. Again, this is a satisfactory move, defending the e5 pawn. Bishop d7 is played in the game, and white castles kingside. Black continues to develop with knight to e7, and white picks up the a3 pawn. There's no point in black defending that because it's always going to get lost. But now, after knight takes a3, there's a really dangerous move for white, which is knight to b5, which black has to watch out for. So knight g6 hits this e5 pawn with 3 pieces, and also frees up the bishop to defend this d6 square. But now Rodriguez plays a nice move, like we just said, knight to b5, so hits the queen, and the queen now has to go backwards. If they go queen to b6, white can continue rook b1, and now threatens knight d6 check. So in the game, queen b8 was played, and Rodriguez played an excellent move in this position. So white really has developed nicely and wants to open things up and get rid of this weak c3 pawn. So they play the best move on the board, c4, hitting at d5. Black takes on d4, And white's got two perfectly legitimate moves here. Bishop takes c4 is fine. After a6, they can play knight d6 with check. After bishop takes and e takes d6. I don't think black wants to take this d-pawn due to rook d1 from white. So with castles, white will just pick up more material. With check, king h8. And actually the material is dead equal here on paper, but white's got a brilliant pass pawn on d6. And we'll play probably bishop g5 and try and support this pawn home to get a queen. I'm sure you'd all prefer to play white in this position. But Rodriguez was better than that. He didn't just take the pawn on c4. He actually captured the knight in this position. Bishop takes g6. Check, and the pawn recaptures. So white's doubled black's pawns on the g file. The rook's opened up on the h file, but frankly, black's just got tremendous weaknesses all over the board. And white continues their attack with the open d file, rook to d1. Black played queen to c8, so trying to defend this bishop on d7. White just takes on c4. Explosive, as Ben Feingold would say. King f7. And now actually white's got an array of moves that they can play. Knight g5 is really nice actually with check. If king g8 there's queen f4 to threaten mate on f7. If rook h5 there's check, king h8, and white can just capture this bishop. After takes, white's just material up. So king f7 though, back to the game. Rodriguez actually just played bishop to a3, so getting rid of this bishop on f8. After takes, rook recaptured, and frankly black's got a terrible position. So knight d6 is the big threat here, forking the king and queen. So king g8 was played, but knight d6 anyway, hits the queen. The queen retreats to b8, and white just doubles on the d file. Rook h5 gets the rook out, but that's all it does. g4 was played by white, hitting the rook. Rook h3, but that actually doesn't do anything because the rook on d3 defends the knight anyway. And now knight to f7. So, hitting the bishop on d7, the bishop retreats to e8, and white just plays knight to g5. Actually, black resigned this position. This is because, let's say the rook goes back here, there's just queen takes e6 with check. And after king f8, there's a really nice finish, knight h7 check, rook's forced to take, and now knight g5, threatening mate with knight takes h7. Let's say rook h8 again, now it's just rook f3, and bishop f7 is the other move, and queen takes f7. So that would have been a really nice finish for white. So I don't just want to say, oh, the win gambit's awesome, it wins every game. It doesn't. But let's just see what white did here. So after f6, they just opened up the position, just developed normally. Queen e2 was the main move. After castling knight g7, they took on a3, and the winning combination was actually this knight on b5 and infiltrating d6. So knight g6 again, knight b5. And after this c4 move, black's position just falls apart. And white doesn't do anything spectacular, just develops normally, rook d1 as we saw. Yeah, and gains this knight on d6 and doubles on the d file. And after this move, rook h5, it was pretty much just game over. So anyway, these games are just examples of what white can achieve in these type of positions. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll post another Filthy Openings Win Gambit French in Game 4. Well, we'll take a look at what white can do in other positions. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this quick commentary. Please drop me a like, comment or subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And also do recommend me other series to do or other openings that you'd like me to cover. See you next time.